I still can't get over the fact that this platform plays our outro automatically when I click go live, which is amazing. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Geek Boutique podcast. That's right. Your favorite geeky podcast on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time is back with a special guest today. That's right. We've got Mr. John from the Cdn Pod Awards. Thanks for joining us tonight, John.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking a little bit Star Trek, a little bit of podcasts, a little bit of just, random geeky stuff. So hang with us, guys. It should be a good one. Of course, Micah Padre, my partner in crime, Jeff, a.k.a. Messiah Complex Cosplay. How are you this week, Mr. Jeff?
I am fantastic, especially after this week's episode of Strange New Worlds. I'm not going to talk about it. I know. I understand. I get it. I understand. Not doing any spoilers, but this one definitely, this one got me a little bit. This one caught me in the feels a little bit. So kudos to the crew there that make that show, which is already maybe my favorite thing on television. And it's just, they're just crushing it every week now. So definitely puts me in a mood, picks me up.
Guess I'll have to save my dissenting opinion until later.
You can. Absolutely. We invite those kind of opinions here.
Yeah, totally. I don't agree with Jeff, FYI. It was a good episode, but last week's, man, I mean, that was for me one of the best courtroom Trek episodes we've had. And people will say, "Oh, but what about Measure of a Man?" Well, I know, but for me,
I said that, and I don't sound anything like that. I don't know why all of a sudden I have that weird voice. What about Measure of a
Man? Guys, we're gonna talk a little bit of Star Trek later on, of course. I mean, we can't have a Trekkie on and not Trek out because you know us. We did film an after show, actually. I asked you earlier how you've been doing. Like, it's not the third time we get together to film today. Guys, we filmed 2 after shows today. That's right. We have 2 after shows running consecutively. We have an after show for I always want to say Secret Wars, but it's not Secret Wars.
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. Yes, Marvel's Secret Invasion, as well as Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2.
Guys, have a drink for editor Megan, because I'm sure she's going to need several when she has to go through all of this content and make it digestible to the masses here. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
But check those out. They should start coming out within the next day or two. If you want our deep thoughts on this episode, which we'll give our basic thoughts a little bit later without spoiling anything, because that's the thing about the after shows, guys. They are spoiler filled, so make sure you watch these shows before you go watch the after shows.
Absolutely.
And Michael's saying technical difficulties part 2.
Hopefully not.
Well, let's hope not.
Can everyone hear everyone okay? Hopefully. I'm assuming so. The platform's been pretty stable lately, so I think we should be good.
Yeah, I've not really had any issues with this platform. Talking about this platform, I want to get into podcasting a little bit. I mean, John here, first of all, tell us what is Cdn Podcast Awards, how it came about, and give us the pitch.
Sure. So the Cdn Podcast Awards are something we put together to help celebrate and promote the Canadian voice in the podcasting ecosystem. We have a large neighbor to the south of us who, dominates media across the globe. So we thought it would be a good idea to, recognize some of our talent here in this country that produce great podcasts. Even we have Canadians that go into the States to produce podcasts there that we recognize.
And So, no, go ahead, Jess. I knew that was going to happen. I have a million questions, but
go ahead. You know what? I'll let you take this one. I know you do. I can see it in your face that you're just itching. Listen. Go ahead.
So, were you guys just sorry, it's not just you. Like, John, can you give us an idea of how many people are behind the Cdn Podcast Awards?
So it's me and my wife, Jennifer. So my producer, Jen.
Yeah, everybody's got to have producer Jen, right? It doesn't work without it. So were you guys big fans of podcasts going into it, and then you wanted to turn your attention more towards celebrating? Have you guys ever tried doing a podcast of your own, and that's what led to it? Like, what got you on this hill in the first place?
So we can go way deep back to when I lived in London, Ontario.
Shout out,
I
London,
was looking
Ontario.
for people to hang out with in the area that were interested in, the tech space. And I saw a meetup group called Geek Dinners that we met at Molly Bloom's. I don't know if that's still around.
Molly Bloom's is still around, as a matter of fact. Yep.
We met up at Molly Bloom's, and
Yes.
they were very into podcasting. And they went to these events called PodCamps, which is sort of a crowdsourced conference for digital media. And just from there, it snowballed into me getting involved with that sort of community. And when I moved to Toronto, I got involved with the PodCamp community here and became the lead organizer for PodCamp Toronto 10 or so years ago now.
Okay. Yep.
We just held our 15th conference last year.
Oh, wow.
So our 15th anniversary, not counting COVID.
Yep.
And from there, we did a little bit of awards around like the best Toronto podcasts in collaboration with BlogTO. And we found that there was a lot more of a demand for something wider, Canada-based across the country. And we thought that would be a good idea. There's a lot of great Canadian podcasts out there that we would love to help promote, especially independent podcasts who don't have a marketing budget, who aren't, like a big network like, Rogers or the CBC or something that can really push their weight around to promote their podcasts. And we thought, let's do an award for the country. And so this last one was our 5th one. This upcoming fall will be our 6th anniversary of the Canadian Podcast Awards.
Do they happen annually then, John? Like once a year, you guys?
Yep. So every year we've had them, even through COVID. We used to have this award ceremony in person at PodCamp.
Yep.
But after COVID, we weren't doing PodCamps for 2 years. So we had to move to an online model, which I think we're probably going to stick with because that allows us to interact with people across the country rather than just, people having to come to Toronto.
No, that's fair.
So people who are nominated send in their acceptance speech and we put together a little video, and whoever wins gets their acceptance video shown on YouTube.
That was going to be my question. So what is the process? So that an individual podcast gets nominated by somebody or groups of somebody's, and then who judges? How do you guys determine who's going to get the award or awards? I don't know if you just give out one or if you have different categories. How does that work exactly, John?
So we have 32 categories encompassing, topical categories, like the iTunes category, basically. So the top level of those. And then we have a few technical categories for like best artwork or best audio quality. And then the process for nominating podcasts is all the members are able to nominate podcasts. And we take the podcasts that are the most nominated in each category and then put that to another vote by the members. And then the members vote on those. And the ones who make it to the top of that list get the award. Anyone can join who is a podcaster. They just have to sign up and we verify their account, verify that they're a podcaster, and they can submit their podcast to the directory and participate fully in the awards for free.
I was just going to say, what does this wonderful service cost?
It costs me a fair bit, but it's free for everyone.
We know that feeling, sir, very, very well. JS, get in here, man. I'm just hogging them. I'm hogging the man the whole time.
I'm just wondering why we're not signed up for this. That's
That's kind of why I'm asking. That's
yeah.
I don't know why we're not. Well, I have a feeling by the end of this podcast, our producer Jen should probably make sure that we are. So
yeah, she's gonna crack the whip, and
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a few requirements for podcasts. They have to be primarily Canadian based. So if it's done by a production company, they have to be based in Canada. And then 2/3 of the staff working on the podcast has to be Canadian as well. And you have to have a RSS feed that we can pull from.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the basic requirements.
Well, we're 2 out of 3 on that for sure. We'd have to work on the RSS feed, but
we already have an RSS feed. It's all set up by Podbean.
Never mind.
So,
so it's all good. It's definitely all Canadian for sure. There's we are the production company, that's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you could call us production company, but we're a production, that's for sure.
We produce something, that's for sure.
That's the case with like most podcasts since the beginning of podcasting. It's people doing it for the joy of doing it. They
Mhm.
find it to be like a release, or even they find it to be like an art form that they like to indulge in, and put together content and put it out there for people for free. Or sometimes they require their audience to sign up to pay for stuff. But a lot of it is just labors of love by independent podcasters not looking to make this their full-time job. And we really were grounded in that ecosystem of the podcast community, coming up with PodCamp and the awards. So that's a lot of our people that are on the site and participate in the awards.
Now,
Mhm.
the joke or the cliche is like everybody has a podcast now. So now I know podcasting has been around for quite some time. I think longer than most people realize, but what would you, if you were to cliff note for me, John, what would you attribute to the popularity of podcast? Like, why is it that everybody's got a podcast? Like, what is it about this space that's so appealing, not only for people to listen to, but for people to participate in?
I would say the low barrier to entry. You have things like television. You have to have a lot of equipment, a lot of expertise in editing. Video medium is hard to deal with as an editor. When we put together the award videos, I don't do video editing professionally, and it's a long process. A lot more time than people would think it takes to edit to get a video, color grade and make sure the audio is all level, all those basic things. So, podcasts have a lot easier entry. You can have basically your iPhone and be recording into it and then publish it directly to your RSS feed or your hosting service. So the low barrier to entry makes it, a very attractive medium for people to get onto. And I think people respond to a lot of the, you know, authenticity or realness of these podcasts that are people who are just doing it to share with the world what they're interested in.
JS, man, get in
Yeah,
here,
can
man.
we talk about a little bit about what people are interested in? Like, what are the cool podcasts that you've discovered through this?
Well, there's this niche podcast called the Geeks and Co. Geek Boutique. They're a really
This
good
man
podcast
knows.
that we discovered. um, you know, we have a full range of people who have won awards through our service. That I would encourage anyone to go to our website, campodawards.ca, and take a look at anyone who's won an award. They're all great podcasts. They all deserve recognition and their flowers. And they're all organized by category. So that if there's something specific you're interested in hearing, you can find it there. Uh, Podcasting has been a big part of my life since it started. And I met my wife through podcasting. So the podcasts that we've discovered and are interested in have changed over the last 16, 17 years. It's been really kind of a wild ride.
I'll bet it has. Because I know we're kind of not, I shouldn't say we're struggling with it, but JS and I were talking about earlier, and I find it can be a challenge. If we look at some of the bigger major podcasts, you look at something like Smartless, which is the one that everybody's kind of talking about now. It's like the big podcast right now. And it seems like for that, in that space, the characters are almost as big, if not a bigger draw than the actual content itself. Do you find that can be either a challenge, or that's the way a lot of these things are going, where it doesn't seem to matter as much anymore what the podcast is physically about, as long as the people that are doing it are entertaining? Or is content still king when it comes to stuff like this?
It can be either or, really. There's podcasts that are really just driven by the personalities, the force of their character, how people respond to their opinions and viewpoints, and how well they hold court on audio. That's a big component of it. Like, how well are you able to communicate through this medium? And then there is people who are looking for specific content. They're always going to be looking for, I want to listen to the Star Trek podcast. One of my favorite podcasts is The Greatest Generation, which is a Star Trek podcast, where they just make fun of the show, really.
It's so great.
But
It's so great. Yeah.
Yes, and the podcast I met my wife through is also another podcast that was driven by strong personalities. So it can be either or. It can be content specific, or you really are drawn to those hosts.
And as far as the trends go, it definitely seems to be trending sort of that way. I'm noticing more and more of what I'm listening to. I'm moving slowly away from the content based ones and moving slowly more back towards the character based one, because you kind of fall in love with these people every day, and they're in your ear every week, or they're in your eyes every week, and that seems to be part of the draw that's coming in. So do you have like I don't know, I guess a white whale, I guess you will, as far as podcasting goes, when it comes to Canadian podcasting in particular? Is there a Canadian podcast that's for you guys, like someone that you would love to have a bigger interaction with, or love to be part of the community as a whole for you guys, or have you guys kind of climbed that mountain already?
For us, I don't think it's about, interacting with anyone specific. We really want to help promote the entire ecosystem. A lot of the podcasts that we do enjoy, we already interact with, before we did the awards and, after the awards. I wouldn't say that, like, yeah, there is like a big white whale other than, getting on this podcast. This was a good
stop. Look at, just get the butter out, kids. This guy knows what's up, right? Yeah, he's going right to the top of the favorite guest list already.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's switch from podcasting for a second to more the technical side of it. And you've been in this business for quite a while now. And like you said, the point of entry is very easy for somebody who can just literally pick up their phone, record something, and publish it right away. Is this becoming more popular, doing the video thing as well, and then sending that off to the podcast? Is it something we're seeing more and more of?
I don't know if I would say more and more of. I know it's a lot easier now to get the video content out through services like YouTube and stuff. It's more discoverable. So it is picking up in that sense. But even in the early days of podcasting, we had video podcasts that were, appealed to a certain segment of people, along with audio feeds. So people usually had a video feed and an audio feed that would be sent out separately. So I don't know if it's more of a thing. It's just more accessible now.
Yeah, we record and then we take the audio and push it to Podbean, right? It's just easier to just do it here, right? And then
for sure.
you could just rip the audio from that, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and even in like the early days of podcasting, people were doing like live streaming before there was like Twitch and stuff like that. They were streaming from in the studio out to their audience. They had chat rooms and stuff going. So it's always been a part of podcasting. It's just a bit more accessible now with platforms like YouTube and, TikTok and stuff like that, where you can promote your videos to to an audience that's more attuned to watching videos, I think.
It definitely, I think it makes it a little bit more of an intimate encounter when you can see, like, one of my favorite podcasts of on the American side is it's called Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, and the first half of his was all strictly audio, and then he did change to a video format, and it did definitely like take me into it further, because now I feel like there's a more intimate or more close reaction to it. So I think this was always going to be a video setup for us for that specific reason, because you're selling yourself as much as you're selling whatever it is as far as the product goes. You want people to see you and get to know you. And I feel like on the audio side of things only, they don't really have as good an opportunity to do that. So, John, I keep meaning to ask you, what about you? Like, you've been in the space for 16 years. Do you have you had, will you have your own podcast?
Probably not.
How does that help me out, man? Help me understand that, because you're so deep and there's just no desire to have one of your own.
It's a lot of work.
Oh, like, yeah, no doubt.
Like, for me, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. People say perfect is the enemy of good, but like, I'm not interested unless it's perfect.
Well, you're on the Geek Boutique podcast, sir. It's not. We're a long ass way from perfect, but no. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Keep going. I'm fascinated by this, that you could be in this hobby for this long and never have a desire to do it yourself. The hard work part, I 100% get, but
yeah, I don't think there's not a desire to do it. It's just not something that I feel like I have enough time with all of the other things that I'm doing. Prop building and the podcast awards and PodCamp, it takes up a lot of my time, and I don't even really know what I would do a podcast about. Like, there's always a niche for something, But as podcast is growing, a lot of those niches are getting filled now. So I don't really know what I would have to offer in addition to some of these other shows that I already listen to myself.
Well, that's what I assumed. Like when I first heard about you guys, I just assumed you guys already had a podcast that just featured other podcasters on your podcast to help promote their podcast in the space in particular. But that's not what you guys do. So when it comes to the awards and it comes to featuring that, how do you guys, is that done strictly through the website then? I know you guys have a live presence at some of the cons and such, but most of this promotion and when you're doing the awards now, you mentioned before, you're doing it online now.
Yeah, it's 100% online now. We go out to events. We have business cards we hand out to like different things that happen in Toronto here. We get invited to events. I do moderations on like panels for TO Webfest is a event that's coming up that I'm going to be moderating a panel on.
Okay.
So we're in the area. We don't really do a lot of self-promotion because it's not really about us. It's about the podcasts that we want to feature or that win awards. I don't know if that answers your question.
No. It absolutely does.
It does. And I like that answer because it's kind of the same reason why we're into it, right? I mean, for us, the Geeks and Company is a community. It's all about the people. And one of the big reasons why I wanted to make sure that if we were going to do a podcast, that we were going to do it live is exactly for the comments, for to be able to interact with people. Now, I know we haven't talked about the comments a lot, but we're going to get to some of the comments, folks.
Speaking of, I want to at least jump in here real quickly because I think this is the missus, if I'm not mistaken. So,
well, there you go. We love community building.
Cdn Pod Awards.
She's hiding out in the kitchen, I think, making bread. But
there you go.
She's listening.
Wow. Let's not disturb. Make that fresh made bread. Are you kidding me? Yes. So she joined us as well for a big Star Trek meetup. You guys were both there for us at Toronto Trek, and that was Toronto Trek. Oh my God. Toronto
Comic Con 2023.
Well, we turned it into Toronto Trek one day anyway, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was shocked at the amount of. Yeah, I was shocked at the amount of Trekkies that showed up.
We did get a question.
Well, if they hadn't moved the spot where we're supposed to take the pictures, I'm sure there would have been more because we saw a lot of people just wandering around, like looking where to go.
So many people came up to us. They were like, isn't it right behind here? I'm like, it was. It even still shows that on the map, but no, now it's like on a whole other level of this building.
Yeah, it's
come with me. We'll show you where it is. Our producer Jen did have a comment, so I'm going to get to that really quickly. John, in your opinion, where do you think podcasting will go? How will it evolve?
That's a tough one. It's hard to predict the future on things. Some people predict, there was a eugenics war in 1992 that didn't happen. So,
Star Trek reference for all you kids out there. Very nice.
There has been a lot of change in the industry recently. Big players like Spotify are really pulling back on their spends. People are moving around to different companies now. That people are being laid off. So there is a little bit of a retraction in the industry for high production shows. But I think there will always be room for independent podcasters to find audiences that really appeal to the content that they want to interact with. And I think hopefully that will always be the case. If I could predict anything or hope for anything in the future, is that there will be a strong independent community in podcasting forever, and it won't be just drowned out by dollar signs.
That definitely seemed like where it was going for a bit, right? When Rogan signed that gigantic deal with Spotify, we were all just like, wow,
for sure.
How is anybody going to not be that? Like, how do you compete with that?
Yeah, and like companies like Spotify really trying to own podcasting, like trying to really silo it to themselves and take ownership of it. It seemed like it was not going to head to a great space. But, recently there's been groups coming together like the Podcasting 2.0 group, which helps push forward the standards used to publish shows through RSS feeds. So they add new tags and new technical requirements for podcasts. So you can list things like what your social channels are in your RSS feed. So apps can pick that up and display it right there in the app. Nice. Who the guests are on your show, they can display that right in the app with a picture of the person. So, the independent side of podcasting is really pushing forward, despite some of this retraction from the big players who tried to sort of take it away from the rest of us.
Well, I think you made a good point earlier, is the low barrier to entry is certainly helpful, right? I mean, you don't need much to get started. Building an audience is one thing, but getting off the ground, you need a phone and some time, and you can be a podcaster. You can have a podcast. So after that, it's going to eat your life. But by leading in, getting there first, that's JS. You have thoughts and feelings?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been an influx of podcasts. There's more and more podcasts. Are there less people than before listening? Like, I don't want to call it viewership, because it's not viewership, but what do you call it?
Listenership, I guess.
Listenership is the listenership going down? Is that why the big companies are kind of starting to spend less and pull back a little, or like what's the reason behind that?
I guess it depends on like where you entered the podcast ecosystem from. So like if you were like a post serial person, I would say the listenership is still growing. But if you were at the ground floor of podcasting in like 2005, like it's dramatically increased over the years. I wouldn't say that listenership or earballs, as I call it, is nice. Declining. I think if anything, it's growing. Especially during the pandemic, we saw a lot of people turn to podcasting to fill time, fill that void of being locked away in their house. And now that people are going back to work and life is returning to normal, there may be a little bit of a drop off, but I don't think that's why big companies are like really pulling back. I think that they really kind of overinvested in the space, thinking that there was going to be like this huge return on things like, Harry and Meghan's podcast, or like Joe Rogan, I guess, is like a big podcast. I don't listen to it. Obviously there's issues around all that stuff. But I think they didn't find the traction and the return on their investment that they thought they would. Maybe they thought everyone would jump to their platform to like listen to podcasts exclusively, when the company that produced, now I'm totally blanking on it. Jennifer, what was the company that Spotify bought? She's not listening to me.
She's making rent.
What? Gimlet. When they bought Gimlet, and they made those exclusive to. And Gimlet was a big podcasting production company at the time. They produced, shows called Startup, and it detailed the owner's progress of starting the whole network. It was a big show that Spotify acquired, and the whole network they acquired, and they made them exclusive to the platform. And I think they thought that would be enough to pull people to their platform, to make it the platform for podcasting. And now they've laid off all those people like last month or this month. So I think they've realized that podcasting isn't something that can be captured in their bottle. And so they're pulling back on that.
And so they're pulling back on it. No, there's no question. Yeah. Because some of the money that they threw around just to capture some of these people, some of these personalities, to put them exclusively on their platform,
millions of dollars.
Yeah, like crazy town. I remember it when it was news that when they threw the amount of money they threw at Rogan, I was like, what? You threw how much money at him for that? And then I think, to your point, it didn't really change the space at all, as far as people were, a certain large group of people were watching Rogan before, usually through multiple outlets, and the same group of people are watching Rogan through multiple outlets still. It didn't really do anything. So I could see why I'd be like, it didn't really shake anything up. It made news because they paid him $100 million, but I'm sure now they're looking at it like, what did we get for our $100 million? Is anybody joining Spotify Premium just to listen to Joe Rogan? I hope you're not, because if you are, that's just silly and foolish. But I think the market is too Jen is making a point. I don't know if the market's necessarily too saturated, but it's definitely too diverse, I think, to be able to capture for one company to be able to just thumb down on such specific talent that everybody would just be like, well, we're just going to ignore all this other cool stuff we like and only listen to this. It's just too broad a spectrum now, I would think. That's my opinion. I'm not a podcast expert, but John, you're at least nodding your head. So I'm going to take that to mean that we're on the same page on this one.
Yeah, I think even like you see people push back against even Apple, who are like the original podcast company.
Yeah.
And people push back against them all the time, with things that they do. So like, I don't think any one company is going to be able to like capture this in a bottle.
No, I agree. Is there anything that you have seen recently though, that is genuinely getting you excited maybe more on the fan side than on someone that hands out Canadian Podcast Awards? Without getting too specific, more on the trendy side of things, you know what I mean? Like in a general, I know you don't want to highlight specifics, but on a broader scope, what are you seeing personally that you're like, I'm liking that. That's cool.
I guess just in general, it would be like the amount of content that's coming out that's so well produced nowadays. Everyone has access to YouTube. They can learn how to do anything, including how to make their audio better. There was a tool I saw today in podnews.net. It was a daily newsletter for podcasters. And you can give it your MP3 file, and it will give you suggestions on what to do to improve your audio quality.
Oh, now that's cool.
Really? That's interesting.
Like one of my biggest pet peeves with podcasts is like, if I can hear them eating on mic or drinking and stuff, like, or if like the audio is just bad quality, like they don't care. Hopefully tools like this will encourage people to, really improve things and make it a better listening experience for people. I guess some people do want to listen to like ASMR and stuff like that. So maybe it's appealing to a certain segment of people to hear someone eat on a podcast, but everything is sounding a lot more professional now than it used to.
No, that's fair.
Our buddy Steve Jones here, who thinks he's on the what list because he works Thursdays now and he can't listen to us regularly. You are not, my friend. And he is saying, isn't that the AI program that they use for audio suggestions? I don't know.
I'm sure there's like some sort of AI behind it that
probably is
analyzes it.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, when we started our YouTube channel, one of the first things we noticed straight away was our audio sucks. We need to, my audio sucked. Jeff already had a decent setup, but I couldn't stand to even watch or listen to my own videos because of the audio, right? So first priority was figuring out microphone solutions, and I went through a couple microphones before finding one that works for me. Right now, is it the best? And could I have a better setup? I'm sure I could. And I'm sure it also comes down to a lot of the dollars, right? How much you want to invest in this. Like we were saying, the barrier to entry is literally nothing, but the cost can
until you want to take it to the next level. No, 100%,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, like if you want to buy a compressor or something to like patch your XLR microphone into. This microphone I bought like last week to be able to do the show, and it's like $100 microphone.
Yeah,
and it's decent enough quality. It's not the best microphone on the market, but it's a decent enough microphone, and it's an easy entry point into like having a more professional microphone than just my iPhone.
Yeah, you sound great. So is this not like, as much as you're in the space, and I know you don't have a podcast, so guesting on pods is still not a big thing that you're doing either?
We do guest on pods here and there. It's not like something we do a lot of regularly. It's occasional. Usually when we're putting out the awards, we do like a little media tour to different podcasts.
Hey, you let us know. You can definitely come back when you're doing your, yeah, for sure. We'll do a whole episode on the Can Podcast. Wow, I'm having trouble tonight, guys. The Can Podcast Awards, guys. FYI, I just want to reiterate to everybody, I am still having major back problems, so I am on pretty strong medication.
He is heavily medicated.
Not
kids.
complaining about the medication. I'm just pointing it out.
We'll keep him on the straight and narrow. Don't worry about that.
But Steve is saying here, he's recommending the Blue Yeti. Because the Blue Yeti
microphone
is probably the entry level so far. Rob also bought a Blue Yeti and he loves it. They're not the cheapest microphone out there, but as an entry point, if you want to spend less than $150, you're gonna have a hard time finding a better microphone than that.
Yeah, for sure. And when I was researching buying this microphone, I went to YouTube to look at comparisons. Everyone's doing comparison videos of what X microphone sounds next to X. And I liked the sound that this microphone produced more than the Yeti or even the cheaper version of this microphone, which is the Rode NTS Mini. This is the Rode NTS Plus. This had a more richer sound to it than the other ones. So it's all really your personal preference on how you want your voice to sound. If you want it to sound, and it's not to say they sounded worse, it just sounded different. And whatever to your ear sounds better, buy that mic.
No,
before we were using this little Rode clip-on microphone that I just plugged into my iPhone to do the interviews. So,
which I'm sure works great as well. I mean.
Yeah, and that's what we use for our videos when we put them together. We go into a studio or we go out around town. The first year we went to different spots in the city and recorded on location with that microphone. And then the next one we went into a studio to record. So it's a great microphone for what it needs to do. And there's almost nothing a little bit of post-processing, audio cleanup can do to fix whatever microphone you do have.
And I want to get back to the awards themselves and what you guys do. And I'm curious about PodCamp too. I want you to explore that a little bit for me, but I want to ask you a really quick question before we get to that is people that want to enter this space, people that want to start their own podcast. I know we've talked about no barrier to entry and easy, but do you have any helpful tips or advice that someone that's been in the podcast game for 16 years now, plus helpful advice for beginners that are maybe just nervous about taking that first step or are intimidated by what, I'm kind of like you. I want to do this for a long time, but I'm kind of like, well, if it's going to suck out of the gate, I don't want to do it. So do you have any helpful advice for people that want to get into this space?
Sure. It's the opposite of, I would never take my own advice, but it's just do it. It's just do it. You only get better by doing it. So if you are waiting for it to be perfect, it's never going to be. In contradiction to what I've already said. But we always tell people, just record something, put it out there and see what the reaction is. Share with your friend group and see what they have to say about it. If it sounds terrible, I'm sure someone will let you know, hopefully, if they're a good friend of yours. But yeah, just do it, put it out there and go from there. You only get better by doing.
Make, fail, make, fail, make, fail, make, fail. Right, guys?
100%.
It's the only way you can get there. Okay. Please break down PodCamp for me because you mentioned it at the top of the podcast. And then I asked you 8 million other questions. But as soon as you said it, I'm like, ooh, what's PodCamp? So can you expand on that a little bit for us, John?
Sure. PodCamp is a annual digital media conference that is entirely crowdsourced. So what we do is we open up a website. People can submit the ideas that they want to speak on. So if you have a presentation you want to either practice on our audience or you have something knowledge you want to share with our audience, you post that onto the website. Then the community votes on them. And the ones that make it to the top of the voting rankings get put onto the schedule. And it's a 2-day event at Toronto Metropolitan University. Cool. Formerly Ryerson.
Yep.
And it's 2 days in February of the reading week. And it's a great time. Everyone comes in and learns a lot. You get to meet a lot of other podcasters and other people in the digital media space, not even just podcasting. We have streams for, digital marketing, YouTube video stuff. We have a lot of content around that. So it's a great community event. To learn and share with each other. That's kind of our whole ethos around that event, is to share with the community, share what you know with other people so that they can build on that knowledge and then come back and share again what they learned.
So it's a knowledge exchange, basically knowledge and experience exchange for people that are in the space.
100%.
That sounds amazing, right? Why are we not doing that either? That sounds great. Shit.
Yeah, we should be doing that.
We absolutely should be doing that.
And
it's a flat system. So like no one is elevated above anyone else. One of our key mission statements is no one is more important than anyone else. So if you're an attendee, you're just as important as someone who is giving a session. And if you're in a session, we have a rule called the law of 2 feet. If you aren't getting what you thought you would out of the session, you're free to get up and go to a different session using your 2 feet.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you have multiple sessions going on sort of at the same time or simultaneously, and you just set them up and book them as you said, based on votes. Like you guys vote as the PodCamp community, you guys vote on what is going to be the topics and who's going to present basically. And then you schedule them out over the 2 days.
Yeah. Anyone can submit and the community votes on them. And then we put them on the schedule based on, sort of their popularity level, what room will hold the amount of people we think that will attract.
And is there still like a general like social aspect to it where people are just like, is the knowledge exchange strictly through the presentations, or is there just a lot of milling about and talking about what's trendy and what's happening and what's whatever in the community?
No, we have a definitely contingent of people who have been coming to these for the last 16 years that just hang out in the hallways.
And just talk podcast stuff and socialize.
And just meet with people and try and, like grow the community, bring people into the space. It can be kind of lonely sometimes in the podcasting space. You're kind of locked in your house or your basement, you're recording your audio and pushing it out to the world. You don't really get to interact with a lot of other podcasters really in person. So we like to provide that sort of venue for those people to interact. We have a party sometimes on the Saturday night that we have people come up to a bar and you just hang out and just talk. So that's more of our social side of the event. And then sometimes in the fall, we haven't since COVID started, but we may start doing this again, is we have an event called Campfire where we book a fire pit in the city and people just come out and hang around the campfire and shoot the SHIT.
Yeah, perfect. So you're keeping the social aspect going throughout, building those relationships within, and then having that knowledge exchange on top of all that. That's definitely the way to do, I think anyway, that seems to be the way to do it, because you're building relationships is what you're doing at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it's all about building community. Like if people are off by themselves doing their own things, it's kind of isolating. So if people are able to come together and, talk to each other and share knowledge, that's an ideal situation for us. And that's, what we sort of promote in all the things we do, is bring people together, and hopefully like with the Fan Expo and Comic-Con, bring people together. And if they click, they can start promoting each other's shows or like guesting on each other's shows. It's really about just helping people make those connections.
I was just about to say, sounds like the podcast community is a lot like the cosplay community. And to go to the point that you just made, me and Jeff literally met at a con. Like the nerds and the geeks we are. But and guys, we popped it up on the screen, but we didn't say it out loud. If you're wondering how much it is to attend the PodCamp, it's nothing. It is absolutely free. So I mean, that sounds like a fantastic time to me. I think that's definitely something that we should look into for sure. So I mean, I can imagine Jeff in a spandex Spider-Man suit or something up there,
let's take it easy.
That'll attract all the people.
It's not what this is about, sir. This is about just getting together and talking shop and having a good time. And
I mean, you totally can. We have presenters doing all sorts of types of sessions. We have a group from the Sonar Network, which is a podcasting network in the city here, come in and do just a session where they do improv. They get everyone to stand around in a circle and they teach them improv lessons, nice. A lot of yes and stuff. But we've also had people come in, Jeremy Taggart from Our Lady Peace, the drummer from Our Lady Peace, come in and did a session because he has a podcast with Jonathan Torrens. We've had people from the Prime Minister's communications office come in and do a session on, digital media and how to use that to promote your political ideals or whatever they were in for at the time. It's a wide range of stuff. So, coming in your cosplay is definitely not out of the question. There's the cosplay community uses digital media quite extensively. So it would definitely be something to talk about at the event.
I'm sure it would. I'm not putting on a unitard to come to the event. That's for sure. It's not flattering, sir.
Now.
There's no, yeah, the event is free, sir. Don't make cost me my dignity. All right. That's not what I'm looking to spend on this.
What do you mean your dignity? I mean, you do it at cons all the time.
Yeah, but this is more of like, that's with just a bunch of nameless, faceless strangers. Like thousands of people pass through our booth. This is a little bit more of like, a little more intimate community. I don't want everybody going like, who brought the old guy in the Spider-Man costume? I don't want to be that guy. That's not how I
well, as long as you keep your mask on, you're just Spider-Man.
I mean, that's
Peter
true.
B. Parker to you.
Peter B. Yeah. So this is entirely separate from the Campot Awards, but the Campot Awards were sort of born out of this event.
Right.
Yeah, we were doing the PodCamp for about 10 years before we started the Campot Awards. And, we were already deeply entrenched in like the podcasting community. So it seemed like a natural extension for us to just jump into this sort of thing. No one else had done it yet, which I guess good for us. But like,
I mean, fair, right?
It seems like something that the community needed. So we jumped on it.
And you mentioned, I think earlier on about, if anybody wants to sponsor us with microphones and such. So you guys do the Campot Awards. This is out of your time in your pocket. Like you don't have any corporate sponsors weighing in. You don't have anything like that. We were talking recently about possibly getting involved in some sort of a sponsorship. Are you guys specific? I know we were joking about it earlier. Are you guys specifically wanting to keep this in-house so that you ultimately have control of how this goes? Or is that something that you would look for funding in a partnership in the future to maybe, I don't know, try to take it to the next level or whatever?
Yeah, with PodCamp, we definitely have sponsors that come and help us out every year to run the event. It's not a free event for us to run. It's usually about like $5,000 to $6,000 for us to put on, which isn't a big amount. So we can usually find sponsors to help pay for that.
Yep.
The awards, definitely it would be something we would love to have a sponsor come on board to, help pay for some of the costs associated with the awards.
Of course.
So yeah, we would definitely welcome any sponsors who want to, sponsor a category or sponsor the entire awards themselves. We are definitely open to those conversations, and we've had conversations with sponsors in the past. It's just never sort of worked out over the pandemic.
So you heard it here, guys. They're good with sponsorship. I'm sure. Put out the feelers, kids. And by the way, hey, if you want to sponsor your favorite low budget geek podcast, weekly geek podcast too, you can hit us up for that too. So that's we're down for corporate.
Actually, if you don't want to sponsor us, but you want to support us, Mr. Thor's Warty, Mr. Thor's Worthy.
He is Warty.
He is Warty. And Mr. Grit and London here, we're talking about some t-shirts that they bought from us earlier. So guys, if you want to buy some merch, you can always go to geeksandcompany.ca. The first link at the top is the link to our store, although a whole lot there. But if you want to help support this crazy addiction that we have of spending money building costumes and sets and props and
travel and food and drink and hotels and
power
and Wi-Fi and booths and all that crazy stuff.
Yes.
And then also a great way to support your local podcasts is to subscribe and leave a review.
Yes.
That's a free way for you to support the podcast you love.
I want to get down a little bit to the prop talk for a little bit, because you get a bunch of stuff behind you. I know you're talking, but I keep staring behind you and trying to identify what's in the glass jar up top.
This or up here?
Yes.
This is Captain Picard after he decided he didn't want to be stabbed by a Nausicaan.
Yes.
Yes, medical officer.
But he wasn't
Picard.
He wasn't Captain Picard anymore.
He was
Lieutenant
Picard
or Lieutenant or whatever.
Officer Picard.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, science. Yes. Oh, terrible. That's fantastic.
Oh, that's cool.
Lieutenant Commander Junior grade or something like that.
Is that what he is?
There's 2.5 pips.
2.5 pips. There we go. Yeah.
So you'd be a lieutenant commander. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And as high as he's ever gone and ever will go.
Yeah.
Gotta get stabbed. Gotta get stabbed in the heart by that Nausicaan.
Take risks.
Yep.
So you were talking about making props a little bit earlier. So you also like to make some of your own stuff. 3D printing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I have a 3D printer under my desk here.
Yeah.
I got it maybe 6 months ago, so I'm just learning, just getting started on it. It's a Ender 5 Pro. It's been okay. It's a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
But most of the props I built before that have been like found object props. So,
Right.
like the next generation, they just grab things like cassette tape cases,
Mm-hmm.
like Jordy's engineering case here. It's just a case for cassette tapes, and they just threw a bunch of greebles on top of it, and it's the engineering kit now. So a lot of my stuff is based on just found objects.
So finding the actual objects that they use during production, and there's a lot of people that are into that stuff where they don't care about what it looks like. They want to make sure that they use the actual parts that were used when those things are made, and it makes it that much more authentic, right? Like when you look at it.
Yeah, well, and they're
Identical.
hard to find too.
Oh,
Like
I bet.
all the stuff is from the 80s, right? So like people aren't keeping their cassette tape cases to like hold on to after what, like 20 years after CDs came out, 30 years, maybe 40 years now. So they're hard to find. They're not too expensive on eBay. Like I think I paid $25 for this one. That's also the good point of them being so old and useless. They're nice and cheap.
Yep.
But yeah, there's that case there. When Troy's son that she had from that star baby that she had burns his finger, there's this dermal regenerator that Dr. Pulaski waves over his hand. This is just a highlighter painted and has a light inside of it.
Really? That's hilarious.
Yeah. So
they were really good at that,
very,
though, right?
inventive.
I mean, they still are, I suppose. A lot of productions are very good at using found parts, and that's where the real imagination is. Me making a prop or replicating something. I mean, there's no imagination in this. I'm just copying somebody's work. But those people, they're the ones that are the real creative folks. I love that stuff.
Yeah, now it's getting harder to find things that are like, found props, because they all have access to industrial 3D printers now. Like all this stuff can be printed in-house. So it's a little bit harder to like keep up with, like the Strange New Worlds props and stuff like that. I got like a phaser I'm working on. Obviously, that's not like a found object.
It's a passion project.
Yeah, I mean, I made some Strange New World badges because, I mean, you can buy them again. I guess you can buy them mass produced, I guess is the term I'm looking for. But
yeah, QMX and like fan sets.
QMX makes them. But I don't know. For me, there's something about a handmade prop, right? Buying something that was handmade. Yeah, look at that. You're making some next gen badges right there.
Next gen badges. Got a bunch of them in the primer stage.
There you go.
I got a million pips I'm working on.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Nice.
If you have not tried the All-Clad 2 chrome and gold paints, look into that. They are.
So I do have a bottle of the chrome paints for the Canadian Podcast Award that's over in the corner there.
Oh yeah,
that one's painted with a different paint, but I want like a nice high gloss gold trophy to have.
Yeah. So they get a physical award?
They don't yet. They're very expensive to mass produce.
They sure are.
So
because you said 32 categories, right? I was like, "Ooh, that's a lot of physical awards for you guys to hand out every year on something you're funding yourselves."
Yeah, and it's about $300 a trophy right now is the lowest like cost we've got for them.
Yep.
So we're maybe thinking about like just doing them ourselves. We have a little bit of experience making props, so it's not too far removed from that space.
But you've got one in the back there?
Yeah, we have actually.
Do you mind?
Yes. I mean, now, folks, if you're listening to us after the fact on your favorite podcast platform, you won't be able to see these, but hey, a little bit of incentive to come and check us out on YouTube.
Yeah.
So we have
this
one, which is like one of our first prototypes.
Yep.
It has the Canadian Podcast Awards logo in the center there. It's half is a maple leaf and half of it is a microphone.
Yep.
Then we have like a scale study that we did for some modifications. We got another one that we printed out just to like test the top of it. And then we have the one that we bring to the Comic-Cons and Fan Expos that's all painted gold.
Okay, so that one's finished. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this one's finished. It actually got scratched the other day. So
no.
probably going to have to refinish it.
As we do. That sounds like the prop maker life. How did you guys come up with the logo? Did you guys have help coming up with the logo, or did you guys do it yourself?
Well, I'm a graphic designer by trade, I guess. So that's my primary source of income, is doing graphic design and web design and stuff like that. So I put together the logo. I do the website all on my own. So
good for you. Keep it all in house, for sure.
If you're gonna want to make physical trophies and you're gonna want to make them yourselves, you're gonna find real quick that you can't 3D print them and sand them all and finish them all. No. And it's too much work. Get into molding and casting.
So we for this, actually, this was our first project that we did for molding casting, was to 3D print this lens for the thermal regenerator and cast this in a clear resin.
Perfect.
So that was our first bit of experience with that. So
producer Jen is saying the same thing. You have to make so many.
Definitely for the award, we're talking about that.
Yeah.
We just got to get one that's perfect, and then we can cast that one.
Right. Yeah. If we're gonna make 300 of them, we're gonna need a perfect mold for it. So
we were lucky enough to have Aaron from Married Makers on the show last month, maybe last month before,
somewhere around there. Yep.
Last month or two, and he had the honor of making all of the Fan Expo cosplay trophies. And I mean, Fan Expo across all of North America, he made each cosplay trophies and then made the finals trophy. He's got a cool actually YouTube series on making the awards. So if that's something that you guys are into, you should check that out. And they're not in the GTA really, they're in Barrie, but close enough. So
I mean, if they're experienced in making awards, maybe we just get them to do it.
Hey,
right?
Hey, who knows? I mean,
speaking of like the prop community and stuff around that, there is an event here in Toronto that we also attend called the Toronto Prop Expo, which is coming up next month.
I thought it was in August.
August 12th.
Right.
So if you want to come check out some of the props I've made, I'll usually have a table there with all of the stuff set out. And we have, you guys know the series that the person put out of the Next Generation in the style of the TAS series, the animated series?
No, I don't think I've seen that.
No.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying there's a cartoon, there's an animated Next Gen show
done in the style of the original.
Just a clip of the Best of Both Worlds where Picard gets abducted.
Oh,
he also did a version of the Voyager where they turn into the salamanders. He's also at this. He does miniatures, or the minuets, I guess they're called, or the puppets from Thunderbirds.
Oh, wow.
The marionettes. Yeah.
The marionettes.
Yeah, marionettes.
That's wild. Yeah.
So they're at this event as well. And we have a bunch of people. There's a guy who does like Wolverine cosplay while he's there. So like there's so much fun stuff at this. I definitely encourage anyone to come out if they're interested in prop building and just want to like chat with people and learn.
And is this the kind of show that is more of like a meetup where everybody brings their stuff to check out and talk shop? Or is this like a thing like where you bring in like people like a show, right? Like people are coming through and paying tickets and all that stuff.
So it's $10 to enter. And it's at a community center in Etobicoke here in Toronto. And they do have like classes put on by like companies like Sculpture Supply, which is a company here in Toronto that, you can buy resins and mold making equipment from. But
they're really the only place in the GTA to buy molding and sculpting supplies. And it's a little frustrating because for people like 100%. Us, we have to go all the way down to, they're almost in Mississauga, aren't they? Like they're south of Etobicoke.
Yeah, no, they're right at the end of the subway line on Kipling.
Yeah, so it's a pain to get to, but they're the there's nowhere else to go, right?
Yeah. So like people like myself or other prop builders in the community you can book a table and just lay out all the stuff that you've built that you want to show. So it's a lot of just getting together and chatting with each other, and people come through and like look around at your stuff and you can talk with people. There's a lot of people in the professional industry that do this stuff for a living, like
Mhm.
building props for television and movies and events that come through and like take a look at stuff. Maybe they see it as like a talent pool to pull from as well. But it's a fun event for anyone who's into this sort of stuff. You know, building something from nothing
Mhm.
of your favorite TV shows or movies.
Mhm.
And they usually have cars there as well. Like Kit from Knight Rider is there. The
Yeah, I
Jurassic
saw
Park
that on the
Jeep is there.
website. Yeah.
Yeah.
The DeLorean time machine.
Yep, they
Yeah,
have
they have
that
a
there
lot of the
often.
cars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's funny because when you go to the cons, you would expect you would see all of those cars, and you only usually get like one or two, but you never have a con that has like a bunch of them, especially Batmobiles. Like, guys, bring in a damn Batmobile at one of these cons. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, it's got to be somebody in the air. Toronto, isn't there a Toronto Batman? Doesn't he have a Batmobile?
Brampton
Batman has a Batmobile.
Brampton Batman has a Batmobile.
Yep. And it's legit. It looks really good.
Yeah, I think the thing is the venues, like, you know, with Toronto Comic Con or
yeah,
you know,
fair
Fan
enough.
Expo, they can't bring a lot of cars in without sacrificing floor space, which they sell for money.
Yeah.
We're finding that out on the community booth side too. They're like, how do we exploit this for some cash? We're like, not really why we're here, but we'll figure something out.
Sure.
Yeah. We're gonna have to investigate this Toronto Prop. Is it the Toronto Prop Show? Is that what it's called?
Toronto Prop Expo. Yeah. Even if you guys just want to come out for the day, it's just one day in the afternoon. Come out and just check it out. You don't have to bring all your props and set up. It's a really chill event.
Yeah, we should come and check it out and see what it's all about. We've already been on for over an hour. We haven't talked Trek at all. Just quickly, I know we're gonna start losing people if we start talking Trek, but just very quickly, Strange New Worlds. I'm not not today's episode specifically. First of all, so far, Strange New Worlds as a complete show from season 1, 2, 3 episodes of season 2 out of 10.
It's some of the best Star Trek we've had in a long time. Not a fan of Discovery. Lower Decks, big fan. Prodigy, it grows on you, I guess. Strange New Worlds has been great. There's a few episodes here and there that I'm not a big fan of. Star Trek Picard was awful until like the last season.
But so I think we're all in line with all that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I really enjoy Discovery, but you've definitely got JS on your side with the whole not enjoying Discovery thing. So, and I get the quibbles behind it, but I still love it. But
yeah, I enjoyed Discovery when they had like Pike was on it. That led into Strange New Worlds. That was like a good season for me, but I really get tired of like, oh, we need to save the entire universe every season. Like, lower the stakes a little bit, guys.
That's what happens when you make it serialized, right? That's the nice part about Strange New Worlds. It's episodic, right? So like this week's episode,
episodes.
Or time travel episodes where it's not a whole giant second season like the second season of Picard, where you're just like milking that time travel thing to death. You have just this one tight episode. They go back in time. There's a problem. We solve it. We go back to our regular time. Everything's cool. It's like
and the lead doesn't cry every episode either. So that helps as well.
Oh boy,
Oh boy.
I am glad to hear you say Lower Decks though, because I feel like that is not getting enough appreciation and it needs more because it's so fantastic. It's such a giant love letter to Trek overall. And now we're going to get the live action characters this season, episode 7 of Strange New Worlds. That's going to be fun. Hopefully that means we get to see some of our guys in Strange New Worlds in animated form the other way. I know they haven't said that, but I'm hoping with the success of episode 7 this season that we get to see some sort of a reverse crossover.
So there was a article that came out today, and it was an interview with Jonathan Frakes, who directed the episode, and I forget who else, somebody else.
The Godfather of Czech,
and apparently they worked very, very hard to keep it an episode of Strange New Worlds, because it is an episode of Strange New Worlds that's the point Jonathan Frakes was making. It's an episode of Strange New Worlds with Lower Decks cast. It's not an episode of Lower Decks, but they wanted the Lower Decks tone.
Right.
So they worked very, very hard to find that comedy and tone of Lower Decks while still keeping it a Strange New World episode. So I can't wait. It's gonna be dope.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking a lot of chances with this season. You know, I hear upcoming there's going to be a musical episode, which I am not a fan of musical episodes of shows, which I know there's a big portion of the community that is fan of musical episodes. Buffy musical is a big thing. You know, a lot of shows seem to like do musicals. I don't know if that's like the jumping the shark now as you do a musical episode, but
it's almost like a requirement. We had our courtroom episode. We had our time travel episode. We better have that musical episode in there.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. I'm not a big fan of the musical episodes.
A lot of people after last week's episode were online. Were like, "We need a courtroom track. We need a courtroom track."
No.
It's like, yeah, sure, Star Trek
No.
special. I don't know, special. I don't know what
investigation. I don't even know what it would be.
Yeah, like
temporal investigation unit.
Yeah. Temporal investigation. Ooh, there you go. Temporal investigation unit. Either way,
yeah, I don't know if it really works out as like multiple things. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Definitely, a lot of these things are good in low quantities. Like, we're gonna get 2 time travel episodes potentially this season with this last episode and the Lower Decks one. I don't know if that's a bit too much for one season of Star Trek, but
I have a feeling that they're going to play around. This was more on alternate timelines, and I have a feeling that one's going to play a little bit more on alternate universe as opposed to just strictly time travel, because obviously the universe is different. They're animated, so I know they have a lot of references to all the Trek stuff, but clearly it's I think it's meant. Anyways, now we're just spitballing on what episode 7 is going to be like. I'm very, very excited because I do love Lower Decks so much, and I love Strange New Worlds, so I think it's going to be a good marriage. And I know, same with last year with the medieval style, the fantasy, the Dungeons and Dragons.
That was
episode.
a surprisingly good episode.
A lot of people didn't enjoy it.
That one.
A lot of people didn't like it. I thought it was all kinds of fun.
I loved it.
Yeah. So you know what I mean?
And like,
but
for those people,
what you get with that. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, you have TNG episodes like that. Like, Q made them all into merry men.
Yeah.
Like, this is like a staple of Star Trek. They go.
Sir, I must protest. I am not a merry man.
Yeah, exactly. So like, this isn't out of tone for Star Trek to like do Ren Fair.
Well, that's the whole point of having it episodic as opposed to serialized, is so that you get to have a bunch of different feeling episodes. Like, change up the tone, do different things, see what sticks, see what doesn't. You're gonna, not everything is going to be amazing, but you're going to have a variety and a broader scope of entertainment. And that's what it's supposed to be like, right? It can't just be the Scooby-Doo mystery of the week. Like, you've got to be able to shake some things up, right? So, and I appreciate what they've done so far with trying new and different things. And John, I'm going to be the same with you. I'm going to be rolling my eyes hard at that damn musical episode, but I'm still going to watch it because I'm still going to support it. And I'm going to crap on it afterwards, and people are going to get mad at me. And that's just what the community's like. We just got to roll with those punches. So
I got to ask, what do you think of the new Gorn?
That we haven't really seen. We just seen some babies.
Yeah, like, I guess it's fine. Like, we saw a retconned Gorn already in Enterprise. They're just doing it even more now. It's fine, I guess. Like, we've never really seen Gorn that were, post TOS that were great looking.
No.
And I think it's fine to sort of take liberties with a species that we're not so familiar with. This isn't the Klingons where we can change them entirely and pretend like they're the same thing. Like, we're very familiar with the Klingons. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of the change in Discovery, but I think they're definitely trending back towards, traditional Klingons now in Strange New Worlds. So I think it's fine for the Gorn. It's not something we're familiar with. And it seems like it's going to be a big point of season 2.
It's a good one to pick. It'd be like a Tholian or something like that, or Kazinti, something we either saw very, very briefly or we didn't really see at all, but got referenced a lot. Kind of like when they brought the Breen into DS9, right? We didn't have a lot of experience with the Breen, so we didn't really have any expectations as to what they should look like or what they should act like, and just a bunch of dudes in weird helmets. But yeah, bring back the
Did we ever find out what they looked like under the
I don't think we did without their helmets. So. You're the DS9 guy. I don't think we did.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever shown us the Breen without their helmet. But
no.
Yeah.
No.
I
but
like
you know what I mean, though. Like, there wasn't an expectation of what we were supposed to see or what we wanted or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's what they look like now. That's cool. So I think it'll be something similar with the Gorn. It won't obviously be just a guy in a big rubber suit like we got in TOS, but
Yeah, and they gotta like update some of the stuff, obviously, for modern audiences. Do people take umbrage with what they've done to the Enterprise and stuff like that? Obviously, it can't just be the Enterprise that we saw in TOS. Although they did show an original Constitution in Picard, so how does that really fit in between Strange New Worlds and Picard?
Timey-wimey,
Maybe they're not
wibbly
talking
wobbly.
to each other.
There you go. There you go.
But
Too funny.
obviously, they need to update some things. It's just the degrees of which they update things that make people upset.
Well, that's what I mean. I think as long as most of the upgrades are like you're talking about, as long as they're superficial, like I get that we live in a modern society, and then we expect to see modern things in the background that make sense to our visual. But when you're taking something that's at its core, something that we're already attached to, something that is not just going to be sitting in the background or part of the environment, but there's something that our characters are going to interact with, then our expectations go from here to here. And now it better look right. And if it doesn't, you get the Discovery Klingons that everybody loses their mind about in a way that they didn't with the motion picture Klingons, which looked completely different from the TOS Klingons.
Yeah.
But everybody was on board with that. You know what I mean? So,
and I'm the opposite completely. I hated the Kelvin Klingons. Hated them with the fucking earrings everywhere and like the punk. I thought that was the dumbest crap I had ever seen. Whereas for me, the Discovery Klingons look fine to me. They just look like Klingons with no hair.
no, but I remember specifically when the motion picture came out.
Oh yeah, I know nobody had a
That was the
problem with it, but I was
huge
like,
thing.
what
Now
the
they've got the big
hell?
raised foreheads and everything else. That's
And the
where that
helmets.
Klingon look debuted. And yeah, people were freaking out because it looked so drastically different from the show Klingons, which were basically just guys in blackface with big eyebrows and beards and such. So
Yeah. I think of also with the motion picture, they benefited from not having the internet.
they sure did, didn't they?
100%.
But I still remember I had friends that were big into Trek that were still upset with what they had done to the Klingons. Like, these aren't Klingons. What are we looking at? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, guys, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So yeah.
Although I feel like it's a little bit different what they're doing with the Gorn right now, because like you said, we've never really had a proper Gorn. As other than the guy in the rubber suit. And we're not going to be doing a guy in the rubber suit.
No.
So they're kind of taking that opportunity, I think, to reinvent the Gorn a little bit and make them more of like that Gorn episode felt more like a horror show.
It got very xenomorph like.
It did. It was very aliens like at one point, right?
Yep. Not a bad thing.
I vote for a Gorn horror spinoff. Give us like a mini series, right? 3 or 4 episodes of a Gorn horror show. Yeah, I would totally be into that.
Well, hey, it's an idea.
What do we think about the Section 31 series?
Well,
well, now it's a movie. Now it's going to be a made-for-TV movie, right? Because they can't lock Michelle Yeoh down for a whole series anymore because she's big-time Academy Award winner now. But they have locked her down for a show. So I guess it depends for me. As long as it's if it's just a one-and-done flash in the pan and we're just doing it because we can get Michelle Yeoh and we're going to do it, that's one thing. I'm hoping it's going to be like a step to however Section 31 is going to play out in the rest of Starfleet moving forward. I almost hope it's like not a giant setup. I want a payoff, obviously, but I want it to be, because it just waxes and wanes too much. Like Section 31 is at one point everything, and then in a completely different thing, absolutely nothing. So like, well, which is it? I know they're supposed to be clandestine, but are they really doing anything in this? Does Starfleet need like a black ops or a secret police? Like, is that something that we should be doing? Like, I don't know. I know.
I think Section 31 is an intriguing concept. I feel like in a time that Gene Roddenberry, in Gene Roddenberry's universe, there is no Section 31. I can guarantee you that.
No.
Right. He didn't even want cast members, like crew members, to be arguing with each other. They weren't even allowed to have conflict between the main cast. Like that's how utopian his view was. So we weren't going to have a Section 31 in his view. But you know me, we had this discussion today about not Secret Wars, Secret Invasion. I always want to say Secret Wars. I don't know what it is.
Well, there's going to be a Secret Wars, the Avengers Secret Wars. So yeah.
So I like the subterfuge and I like the misdirection and not really knowing what's going on until the end twist where you realize that everything you thought that was real wasn't. And you know what I mean? Like, I like those type of things. So I always enjoyed the Section 31 episodes. The Discovery Section 31 episodes were a little weird, I'll admit. That Section 31 with the guy that was a machine, that was, I don't know. Listen, I got lost a little bit there. But I like the Section 31 episodes, especially in DS9. I mean, that's really what solidified Section 31 for me. So I'm totally in for a Section 31 show. Whether it's a TV show or now it looks like it's going to be just a TV made-for-TV movie. Hopefully they make more. I don't know how they're going to move the story along because we don't even know which time frame this is going to happen in.
Right. Where did she move back to?
Well, yeah. Where does she end up? When
After
she goes
stepped
through the
into
Guardian,
forever,
where does she end up, right? So we know nothing at this point about what the context is going to be. If it's like the birth of Section 31, maybe. If it's like an episode of DS9 where they end up back on the original Enterprise and they do some trickery like this where she somehow gets added into the background of episodes of shows that we've already, that would blow my freaking mind. I would love something like that. I loved Jadzia interacting with Kirk. That was that was epic in my book. Doing something like that could be cool, or maybe she does move from place and time to time. Who knows? I don't know what they're gonna do, but I'll watch it 100%.
You're board. Selling me on it a little bit more now.
I'm on board.
Section 31 was never like a big thing that I was a fan of, like sort of like the Mirror Universe. It's best in like small quantities. Like, don't make this the whole thing. So I struggled to see like how that sort of works out within the Star Trek universe. They had it in Enterprise even, where Malcolm was recruited into Section 31. So like it's always been around, but in Deep Space Nine, it was all in this one guy's head, and no one, like, it's sort of like the unknown quantity of it makes it more interesting to me in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Versus like it's always been established and it's this big organization. Like if it was just Sloan, that's more interesting to me than this has been like part of the Federation for 200 years now.
But we know it's not just Sloan, right? Yeah. And even and we find that out when they go into his head that it's not in his head because that's where Section 31 resides. It's in his head because nobody has all of the information of Section 31. Potentially except him. So anyway, I like that idea a lot. Hey guys, we've been on for almost an hour and 20 minutes, and I'm going to assume that the old man over here is working in the morning, isn't he?
He is not. He does have tomorrow off, but he has been up since 2 this morning, and he worked a 10.5-hour shift today. So he is very tired. He's definitely going to bed. If we'd like to start wrapping it up, that would be wonderful. Not that I have enjoyed my time with John. John, thank you, by the way, so much for coming on and telling us about the podcast awards and the PodCamp and everything that you guys do on your side. While we're wrapping up, do you want to go ahead and plug your stuff? Where can people see it? How can people get in touch? How can people join? Go ahead.
Yeah, just go to camppodawards.ca and sign up. We all of our socials are at Campod Awards, and follow us there and be on our list to get the updates when we launch the awards this fall.
Perfect. JS, what have you got going on coming up? Anything new in your life?
Well, what we've got going on is, you and Megan are coming to my neck of the woods this weekend. And we're going to go check out a little place called Primitive Designs on Sunday. If you guys don't know Primitive Designs, keep an eye out on our channel. I think we're going to maybe try to make a little bit of a video while we're there, because there's some really cool handmade stuff, and their metalwork is insane. They've got like a 14-foot tall Optimus Prime and 20-foot tall Dinobot. And listen,
now I know why you want to go. So yeah,
it's quite the spot. So we're gonna go check that out this weekend. So keep your eyes open. A video will be coming out for that soon. Cool. Like I said earlier in the show, we do have after shows coming out this weekend as well. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. What about you? What's going on with you the next little while?
You know what? Shockingly, I don't have a whole lot. I got I got a little gig at the end of this month. I'm helping out one of the local schools, putting on the, I don't know, Cap or Spidey or whoever, and doing some stuff for that. But other than that, yeah, we're getting ready for Fan Expo, man. That's the big one coming up. We got to start gearing up for that. So
yeah. Hoping to hear back soon, and we can get set up as quickly as we can.
Figure out our plan as to what we're going on. Yeah, we just had Forest City Comic Con here in London, so that was literally just this past weekend. Helped judge the cosplay contest for that. It was an absolute blast. We had a wonderful time. Great little con. So, and you get to see the Geeks and Co. here in London at London Comic Con coming up in mid-September. So keep your eyes open for that, guys. That one is confirmed. We are definitely going to be doing that. So,
yes, London Comic Con is confirmed. So, yes.
We'll be there for
awesome.
That. But other than that,
John, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. That was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you guys are great booth mates at Toronto Fan Expo. So, you are welcome back on anytime. And hopefully if we see you again at Fan Expo this year, we'll definitely have to hook up. We're going to do some investigating about this whole pod camp. And what was the other one? The pod fire? What did you call it?
Campfire.
The campfire. But definitely get us signed up. Get us signed up for the Camp Pod Awards, and then let's get it signed up for the PodCamp for sure.
There you go.
Yep.
Guys, if you enjoy what you're hearing, always make sure you click that subscribe button. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. If you're listening to us on one of your favorite podcast platforms, give us a follow. Check us out. We're on Podbean, geeksandco.podbean.com. That's where you'll find us every day of the week. I think that'll be it for this week, though. Make sure you stay geeky, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Geek Boutique Podcast. Like always, if you prefer to listen to us, you can find us on all major podcast platforms. Now, make sure you don't forget to click that like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell to make sure you never miss anything.